Have you missed it? Like, do you guys think, oh, I should have got in on Bitcoin?
I don't spend long
5 years ago.
Bitcoin.
And Bitcoin is something that certainly a lot of people think, is going to rise as an alternative currency.
The Australian Bitcoin Podcast, presented by Hardblock.
It's not a currency, it's not money. I don't understand it.
Hey boys, welcome to Australian Bitcoin Podcast. Mike, you're back.
I'm back.
It's good to have you, mate. Good. We missed you with Pete Dunworth last episode. And sometimes, it's kind of hard to beat a guest like Pete, but we got Jesse on the show today. No pressure from.
Pete's a pretty high bar to hurdle.
I don't know. Yeah, it's you just got to shout out bullish price predictions, and
7 gazillion, seven gazillion. I reckon it's going to
gazillion. There you
Best
go.
guest ever, right here. Just like that.
Put that in the YouTube thing. Get the algos juiced up. That sounds good. We're going to a gazillion. 7 of them.
Yeah.
Welcome to episode, what are we running? 92, I think, of the Australian Bitcoin Podcast. DJ, Mike in the house, and obviously Jesse, we just introed. We're going to go through a little bit of news, figure out what's been going on the last couple of weeks since we recorded last. And then at the back end, we're going to talk Rise Mofo. We're going to talk the price of coffee. We're going to talk about what it's like to be a business owner in this economic environment. We're going to talk about how you could potentially incorporate Bitcoin into your business to let it thrive more so than just survive. So welcome, boys. Let's get into it. What do we got? First discussion point. I think probably the biggest thing that has happened, certainly within the last 24 hours at time of recording, is the Federal Reserve and the White House digital asset report that's kind of came out. And, I haven't really spent a lot of time getting the TLDR. So I'm hoping you can do that for us, Mike. But what was interesting is you've got here, and I didn't even look at the price action. I thought about this yesterday and I thought, well, if this comes out and it is bullish, maybe the price will rip, but it hasn't done anything. And that's kind of a good thing because it hasn't even gone down really. It just keeps ranging in this sort of 120-ish, USD range, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, the price action's been a bit strange over the past fortnight since you guys last ripped. We'd just come off an all-time high in US dollar terms, and since then it's just kind of been hovering a little bit under that mark, just kind of running stable. Despite there's still just been an insane amount of institutional adoption and institutional buying that just keeps happening. All these treasury companies popping up and buying more and announcing all these strategies to just keep stacking, and yet the price doesn't seem to be moving that much, and it's very strange. And obviously with the government support from the Trump administration, even with all this bullish sentiment flying around, the price still hasn't moved that much. And so it is strange. I'm yet to hear a good reasoned argument as to why it's not ripping or why something more substantial is not happening. But again, we just got to remember it's a slow thing, right? Lower your time preference and just see what happens and hold on. So you mentioned the report that was released. So it's a hefty document, 150 odd pages of lovely government speak. A lot of rah, we're doing this, look at how good we are, puff our chest out, that sort of thing. We can probably throw a link to that in the show notes, but it is a lot of grandstanding. Basically,
just for clarity, sorry to interrupt. How long was the white paper compared to this report?
The white paper,
yeah,
much shorter.
It's like 9 pages, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
and if you could distill down, this report they just put out into the core facts, you'd probably be able to summarize it in 2 pages. but it's just, this political fluffing that just comes with any of these sorts of things that come out, where they hide the substance in the fine print and really just want you to look at the big flashing words. But basically, it's off the back of, if anyone missed it, they've passed the Clarity Act and the Genius Act in the US, which basically gives a lot of structure and meaning for crypto adoption, Bitcoin adoption, a lot of stablecoin focused stuff over in the US, trying to crystallize the regulatory approach to those emerging technologies, give the green light for banks and a lot of regulated institutions to roll out crypto and stablecoin related products. And so really what this boils down to is get ready for a lot more shitcoin-esque projects and stuff just get shoved in everyone's face over the next couple of years off the back of this.
So Gary Gensler was a Bitcoin maxi and copped a lot of shit from people about dragging his heels on the ETF launch. And potentially, it's entirely possible that he was keeping all of these altcoins at bay. But I guess if you use an analogy, I think I was listening to, and I don't want this to turn into some sort of echo chamber circle jerk, but I was listening to Preston Pish's TIP podcast, and I think it was Dr. Jeff Ross mentioned something to do with the fact that the stable coins, and obviously this promotes USD pegged stable coins in order to strengthen the dollar. Maybe they've figured it out, like, the dollar is the cleanest dirty shirt in the laundry. However, people still don't really want it. And, we've got to try and sort of plug the hole here. But he sort of used the analogy, I think it was him, that this is kind of like a nice bridge between, I guess, the old world and the new world where we're going to. And so for a lot of people, it's a little bit more comfortable. It's kind of like, I think one of the analogies that Hodl used was like we had pets.com during the massive .com bubble in the early 2000s, and you could effectively buy a massive bag of dog food online, but there was no infrastructure to actually ship that massive bag of dog food from the store, pets.com, all the way to your house because it just didn't exist. And so I guess it's that, as Bitcoiners, as low time preference as we have, we do tend to get a little bit impatient too, because it's kind of like, well, we know how to work it now. Everyone else should figure this out and we can just start using it, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. It is an attempt to bridge the old world financial system into still this regulated system they control on stablecoin rails. They're trying to, what's another approach that they can take before the fiat system crumbles and dies. This regulatory environment based on stablecoin rails appears to be their attempt to kind of bridge into these new technologies, but in a way that they're still firmly on the grip of levers of power and be able to control things. So yeah, it's just, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I remember hearing Greg Foss say once, the US is probably going to try everything, and then when everything fails, then Bitcoin will be the last resort.
Yeah, it's just maths.
Yeah.
God bless Mr. Foss. He's kind of missed. He's a very enthusiastic character. If anyone hasn't ever caught one of him on his podcast. One other thing that I saw was banking access and the ending of Choke Point 2.0, which is obviously was a myth, but is now confirmed and has been real for a long time. And I think that's interesting that the regulators are clarifying bank activities to custody, tokenization, stablecoin issuance, all of that nonsense as well. So like there'll be grifts and scams, whether they're regulated or not. Like it's just going to be, prolific. And obviously the advice is to ignore all of that and just buy Bitcoin, preferably on hardblock.com.au. But I wonder if Australia will follow suit, because clearly there are users that are coming up against, blockages and hurdles and other for your safety type things that go on in this country that are kind of like an echo of Choke Point 2.0. I wonder if they'll sort of ease up a little bit and cease some of that stuff.
Well, my perspective on that is so Austrac, the regulating body that deals with counterterrorism financing and financial tracking, they are working through lots of regulatory changes that are going to be rolled out over the next year that are impacting exchanges and any banks and institutions that deal with crypto. They've introduced a new category. It's called transfers of value. So they're not trying to categorize, what is money, what is a token, what is an asset, what is a thingamajig, what is a shitcoin. They're just going to say anything that constitutes a transfer of value is subject to these rules and regs. And their approach is basically like, we're going to monitor the crap out of you. We're going to scrutinize everything, but it's all good as long as you're not a terrorist or you're not a terrorist or a criminal. So their
16.
general approach is that they're trying to allow this stuff, but they just want to make sure you're not a terrorist or a criminal. And they're going to look really hard at every single thing you do, every step of the way, to make sure that you're not a terrorist or a criminal. Which, obviously I'm anti-surveillance in every kind, but I'm also anti-terrorist and criminals. The scary part is that when you look at all the other stuff that the government's talking about in terms of its hate speech rules and digital surveillance around under 16 social media ban, and requiring an ID just to Google search and go on YouTube and all this sort of stuff, that with the amount of financial surveillance that's coming in, coupled with the identification stuff that's coming in as well, that all these tech platforms are going to require for Australians to use their services, it is setting things up for that tyrannical regime that people always warn about to come in at some point and suddenly use all this information that they've got to start to control things and influence and target certain groups and certain people that government doesn't like. So I'm positive, but it is a scary situation that we're walking into.
Yeah. I mean, it's just another in a long line of scary things that get announced, and we're told we can't do this, we can't do that, whatever. The interesting thing about the KYC AML stuff is, like, it's obviously there with good intentions, and I can think of a few other things that were rolled out in recent years that had good intentions behind them, but obviously failed categorically and completely and utterly. The interesting thing about the KYC AML stuff and the FATF and stopping terrorism stuff, that the data shows that they're just completely ineffective when it comes to actually stopping these sorts of things. And most of the time, as we know, the money laundering and a lot of the criminal activity actually happens in the traditional banking system, more so in the Bitcoin ecosystem or even crypto, mostly because it's just completely transparent blockchain, and you can effectively track and trace a lot of that stuff after the fact, like in perpetuity. The things that we do on the blockchain now will be there in perpetuity forever, And so criminals mostly don't prefer to use that system, and they prefer to go to the traditional finance institutions like HSBC, for instance.
Good old HSBC. Choice of organized crime everywhere. But you're right. It is the fact that organizations are required to collect this data in the first place to comply with regulations, and then eventually this data gets hacked or leaked or compromised in some way, which results in scams and identity theft, and it effectively enables more criminality than would otherwise be conducted if these regulations weren't in place. So unfortunately, I don't see them learning their lesson. But we just got to keep fighting them every step of the way. Just to bring it back to the stablecoin discussion earlier with the US changes. So there was a court case recently that was settled, which is relevant to stablecoins. So there's an Australian fintech company called Finder. They were in a court battle with ASIC over whether their yield generating stablecoin product was operating out of the license requirements. Did they need a financial services license or not? And the ruling was actually no, because they're dealing in stablecoins, which the Australian law does not recognize as money. So it does kind of open the door in Australia to, not through the positive government stance like the Trump administration is doing in the US to enable stablecoin stuff, but here in Australia, this court ruling has kind of done a similar thing where a judge has gone, stablecoins aren't money. go for it. Do whatever you want. You don't need a financial services license. And the guys involved in the lawsuit have even said, off the back of this court case, we're now going to roll out this fancy new product, which we'll hear about soon enough. So, interesting Australian court outcome here for if you're interested in peddling shitcoins, stablecoins to Australians. You've got the green light from the courts now.
Sweet as, but it's all for your safety, of course. Lest we forget. So I'm curious to know, just going back to that definition too, you mentioned, what was this thing to do with value? Just remind me again.
Oh, right. So under the new AUSTRAC regulations, they're now referring to transfers of value.
Okay.
And crypto or exchanges are now called VASPs. Value something. Oh, I need to look up the acronym. You're now a VASP, which basically stands for value. I should really know this.
So what about people on Marketplace? I presume they're transferring value. And Jesse, you're transferring value at your cafe because value is subjective, effectively. So, Ideally, I could even find value in some of those books. I'm sure I would. Behind you there, Mike, and you could transfer some of those books. You post them to me. Is that a transfer of value? It's such a vague term, and forgetting the fact that it's subjective, and most academics don't even touch the word value in any of their research.
Yes, you're exactly right in that, they are capturing, they're trying to capture everything. They're trying to remove the ability for there to be edge cases or loopholes just by basically saying, something is valid, like any transfer of value. So yes, this is going to start to capture things like your Facebook marketplaces and your, and anything that's a transfer of value. Like they're including, gold and bullion providers in these new laws now, and a lot of other edge cases, which traditionally you wouldn't think would be the realm of AUSTRAC in counterterrorism financing. But what's even more annoying is that there's no threshold. There's no minimum threshold. It's not like, if the transfer is under $20, we don't care. So even if you're, so this would be relevant to you, Jesse, and whichever custodial providers that you and your customers might use for dealing with just buying a coffee with Bitcoin, even though it's, $5 worth of Bitcoin, AUSTRAC wants to know that. AUSTRAC wants to know whose wallet the Bitcoin came from, whose wallet's it going to, because they say, this could still be money laundering.
So do they have the resources to enforce a police, whatever the term is, or is it sort of like the choke point 2.0 type stuff where effectively you enable proxies like the banks effectively. So whenever anyone gets any salty at the bank, particularly the customer representative who puts their account on freeze or whatever because they're trying to transfer more than $10,000 worth of US, or Australian dollars rather to buy Bitcoin, it's not their fault. It's they're kind of like proxy police officers, right? They're just kind of doing effectively what they have to because they've outsourced that resource allocation onto these private entities to sort of enforce this stuff, right? Or at least provide some friction or something. I don't know.
Well, they're completely passive in this. They basically just set the regulations, and then it's up to the institutions involved, the VASPs and exchanges and custodians and the customers to pony up the data, to collect the information and make it available and self-report to AUSTRAC if they think that someone is involved in terrorism, money laundering, that sort of thing. So really, they're just striking the pen and saying, okay, this is what you need to collect and make available to us on request, or selectively give to us if you think there is that it crosses a risk threshold that it could be a terrorist or a money launderer that's buying your coffees with Bitcoin. So it is what it is, though.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, there was that instance. Sorry, Jerry, go on.
Pretty slow way to launder money if you're going to buy coffees with it.
Yeah.
Well,
Become
there
a
was
wife.
that instance of the rapper. I can't remember her name for good reason, but she was like the richest rapper in the world. Do you remember that couple that stole a bunch of Bitcoin?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then one of the ways that they got caught was they were using it to buy gift cards or something like that, and they were able to sort of connect the dots in between that. So I mean, maybe, maybe, but it just seems like a bright idea from yet another government department that is overfunded and under resourced and is stocked with people that really just don't know, and they just don't know, and they kind of the people that do know have to be like, okay, do the sailor sigh.
We do have to remember that ultimately they do mean well. Like the people
For sure.
working for Austrac and stuff, they all do completely mean well. So I don't blame them for what they do. I wish there was a better answer and a better way to go about things.
It's very Christ-like of you, Mike. I appreciate that. Forgive them for the knowledge they do.
It's the system that sets people up. It's not like, I don't think the tax office get up in the morning and go, I know what I'm going to do today. It's really the system. And so,
It's all self-referential, and it's all incentives. Let's just call it incentives. Michael Saylor, he's bought another 6,220 Bitcoin, and the price hasn't moved. I take it because someone sold 6,220 Bitcoin, which makes total sense. A lot of people are up in arms on Twitter. How can you buy 6,000, Bitcoin and the price doesn't jump? Like, what's going on there? And I don't know. That's above my pay grade. I'm too left curve for that. But I presume someone has sold. It could have been that fella that sold, 80,000. I don't know if that's on the list. Apparently it was an OG that sent like 80,000 Bitcoin to an exchange, Galaxy Digital or something like that, and sold it for like $9 billion. And a lot of people are like, oh, it's an OG that got fed up and the libertarian ideals are failing, and it's being co-opted by, the very same people that we didn't want it to be co-opted by and all the rest. And I mean, if bro has 80,000 Bitcoin, he's probably got maybe another 80,000. I'm speculating here, but I don't think I would ever sell any Bitcoin just because it got co-opted by the state or by whatever. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. Anyway,
Man's got to eat. He's been sitting on it since the early days.
Cents on the dollar.
Time to cash in, I guess.
What would you do with $9 billion? I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, so, okay, you've sold 80,000 Bitcoin. Let's say that's what you had. What are you buying with that $9 billion? 3-bedroom house in Blacktown? An apartment next to the Westfield?
Yeah, I don't know. What would you do? You'd. The only thing I could really think of is you're trying to start a political movement to solve some of the crap that's happening. That's the only thing I can think of, because it's like, what your material needs are taken care of with not that much money. So what else is there?
How many more coffee shops are you franchising out, Jesse?
Oh, it's probably better to buy Bitcoin than to buy more coffee shops.
It's a high hurdle rate. What are we, 25% year to date?
Yeah.
It's a high hurdle rate.
I was thinking with $9 billion, like, because I just heard Mark Zuckerberg has built out this private compound on one of the Hawaiian Islands, trying to protect himself from the end of the world. And but even then, I think he's only spent like $300 million or something like that. So, $9 billion.
Still got change.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway.
I mean, yeah, the Hawaiian Island thing. There was supposed to be a hurricane, and the whole island was supposed to be wiped out yesterday. Is that right? I don't know. Again, I'm not following this stuff very closely, but
there was a tsunami.
Good luck
yes,
to
of
Zuck.
course. Oh yeah, there was an earthquake. That's right. Yeah.
And there was one,
well.
because I need to know whether I need to edit this bit out or not, because my ignorance is showing right now.
Whenever I hear about these billionaires opening bunkers in New Zealand and Hawaii and all these remote places for, to live out the apocalypse or whatever, there is conspiratorial talk as to, what do they know? Is there a meteorite coming, or is there a solar flare coming to knock us out? But whenever I hear about all these bunkers that people are, bending over backwards, building everywhere, I'm just like, if the apocalypse happens and we're in a Mad Max future, it's going to be a lot of fun raiding these bunkers. Go and popping them open and say good day to the rich folks inside.
You don't think that they'd have like a massive drone swarm before you even got within cooey of the joint?
Probably, but there'll be no shortage of raiders that you can recruit to your cause, I think.
I guess in sort of more sobering news, we've got the Samourai wallet developers. They're scheduled to plead guilty. And again, I guess this is, the story goes, the founders of Samourai Wallet, Kieran Rodriguez and William Lonergan Hill, plead guilty to the second charge in their indictment, conspiracy to operate an unlicensed money transmitting business, despite having previously pled not guilty to the charge. You've been following this, Mike. What's the TLDR?
Yeah, so this is relevant for the bigger picture of this case and also the Tornado Cash trial, which we can talk about as well. Two trials that are happening at the moment. Is the relevance for it is about, how are creators or developers held liable for what people do with the tools. So everyone needs to be looking at these cases, because the outcome of this is going to have a big impact on developer sentiment towards, they're working on Bitcoin, they're working on Freedom Tech. If these guys go down just for writing code, what's the effect on the developer landscape going to be? But yeah, so just to clarify, they have in the Samourai case, they've pled guilty to the second charge, so not the primary charge of the case, just the secondary charge. But basically, I haven't really read into it too much. It's probably a bit ignorant on my behalf, but basically I'm just trying to read here. So I might need to tighten this up a bit in post.
If I chuck this into Grok, and this seems really, really lazy, but we've got jobs and there's other things going on. Basically, they both pleaded not guilty, arguing initially they both pleaded not guilty, as you were saying, Mike. In May 2025, the defense moved to dismiss the case. There seems to be a bunch of really incoherent arguments on the what is the plaintiff's side? Is that right? Oh God, man, I'm just not a lawyer. Hey.
Yeah, well, basically the short and skinny of it is Samourai Wallet. It's a Bitcoin wallet, and they were operating a mixing service as part of the Samourai Wallet, which is, for anyone not aware, a mixing service is where you can send your Bitcoin. It goes into this thing. It was called the Samourai Whirlpool. Basically, it goes into this big pool of Bitcoin, spins around, and then spits out KYC-free Bitcoin. That was the service they were running alongside the Samourai Wallet software itself. So you could very easily get Bitcoin into your Samourai Wallet, then put it through their mixing service, and then have KYC-free Bitcoin. So it's basically breaking the chain, where in Bitcoin you can follow transactions as they move through the blockchain. These guys provided a service to break that chain, and they've been arrested for it. And so that trial has been going on, and then just in this last week, they've pled guilty to the second charge, conspiracy to operate an unlicensed money transmitting business. The arguments on the defense side basically say, look, they're just providing the tools. You don't arrest someone for building a car, which then gets used for a terrorist attack. You don't arrest someone for building and selling a phone, which then gets bought and used by criminals to conduct their criminal activity. So that's generally the arguments used to defend the Samourai Wallet guys.
Yes.
Now, they were a bit cheeky, and you can sort of see in their tweets and stuff, they were kind of aware that their services were getting used by criminals, and they were kind of almost seemed to be proud of that in some of their rhetoric on their tweets and stuff, which is generally unadvisable, because that's being used against them in court. So For anyone out there, always remember that your actions on social media leave receipts, as a lot of high schoolers now work out when they're entering the workforce and their employer goes back to their tweets from 10 years ago. Turns out the same thing happens when you're developing software used by criminals around the world. So
is this a way is this choke point 3.0? If you can get developers like not building tools to facilitate. Yeah, it's just like choke point 2.0 was like banks choking. Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting that you've just put an idea in my head that I'm surprised that no governments have broached the idea of requiring licenses to produce software. But you just popped this horrific idea in my head now with that comment.
What's the mark on this? Is that 32 minutes?
Yeah.
Don't publicly air that.
But yeah, so relevant to the Samourai case, the other one going on right now is Tornado Cash, which is really the only, I think it's funny, it's the only useful Ethereum project out there. Like if you talk to a crypto bro and Ethereum bro and you ask them, what's actually a useful product on Ethereum right now, pretty much the only thing that they can name, and they probably won't be able to name anything, but the only one that you can name is Tornado Cash, which is another mixing service very similar to the Samourai Whirlpool service. So that's another trial that's happening at the moment. And so I think we'll see outcomes. So sentencing for the Samourai wallet case is November 7th. So we'll hear about that over the next couple of months. And then Tornado Cash, where are they up to with that one? I think they're in the.
Did you see that new Ethereum promo? I don't want to turn this into like a digress too much, but they had something like believe in something, and then they made the ETH within the word something stand out like in all caps, and it was pretty sad, to be honest. It's like, come on guys, like believe in ETH, believe in us, we've got this covered. Yeah, sad. Man, we're coming up on half an hour, and I reckon, look, we could probably roll through a whole bunch of stuff with regards to the state of the economy and having student loans cancelled out and the GDP being in the toilet. I would suggest putting on notifications and following people like Tarek Brooker and co, who would probably put you in a nice little doom circle. But I'm more curious to find out, okay, fine. There's all of this bad stuff. It's always happening in the world forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. But there's also a lot of cool stuff going on. And one of those things is that you are accepting Bitcoin.
Are you looking for a simple way to buy Bitcoin in Australia? Hardblock makes buying Bitcoin easy. As Australia's longest running Bitcoin exchange, our mission is to help Aussies simply and easily buy Bitcoin and take it into self-custody. There are no deposit or trading fees, just a clear 1.2% spread whenever you buy or sell, lol. That covers our operating costs, so you always know exactly what you're paying. Withdrawals are just $1.18 AUD or as low as 400 sats with AutoSend. No hidden charges, no surprises, just a fast, reliable, and easy way to stack sats with total transparency. Get started today at hardblock.com.au. Bitcoin made easy for Aussies.
Bitcoin at your cafe, Rise Mofo, on the Central Coast there, Jesse. And you've been doing that for a little while now, I suppose. But we've just been chatting over the last few months to try and get some sort of collaboration going whereby you can promote the spending of Bitcoin at your cafe for obvious reasons, and I don't want to upset Konza, but sort of like Tears Law type things, in which you're trying to drive good money out of the pockets of the people that have it, rather than accepting the bad money, which is clever. But I don't know. You take it away. This was your idea, and we've sort of come on board to help support that.
Yeah, well, cafe owner, obviously grokked Bitcoin. Fully really got kicked down the rabbit hole pretty hard with the Michael Saylor series in 2020, like 2020, I think. And so then it was just consumed my life. and then it was like ways, and I like you probably both understand, you're both working in the Bitcoin industry. You think of ways, how can I incorporate this into my everyday life? And so I'm like, oh, maybe I could start a podcast, but there's 1,000 million good podcasts out there. And like you guys, I probably couldn't outcompete you guys. And then I look at what's in my hand, and I had a cafe and a deli. And so I'm like, okay, well, why don't I'm not necessarily trying to get people's Bitcoin, but I'm trying to expose people to Bitcoin so that the more they see and hear about it, the more they're open to learning about it. And so, started accepting Bitcoin a couple of years ago. That kind of raised, a couple of people, oh yeah, Bitcoin, many people use this. And then I'm like, okay, that's not really moving the needle too much. Really the only people that were coming to pay in Bitcoin were Bitcoiners. And that wasn't my goal. My goal was to get people in my community thinking and talking about Bitcoin. And so the next step was to offer 10% off for Bitcoin. Like I figure if I offer 10% off, I just have to hold it for a little bit. And I'm probably not going to get that. I'm probably going to get 1% maximum of my transactions in Bitcoin. So like if I just hold it for a bit, I can recoup that 10% pretty easily. That barely moved the needle. So then I upped it to 15%. Now I'm kind of drawing out more Bitcoiners, but a fair few more people talking about it, not a lot of action as far as using it at the cafe. That being said, we're about 2.5 years in, and I personally, out of my own time, will go and help someone start buying, help them sign up for Hard Block, help people get SMSFs into Bitcoin and stuff like that. So I'm starting to see the fruit of it now, but still not moving the needle enough for me. So I'm like, okay, maybe I could offer 50% off for purchases in Bitcoin, and that will really peak. Like most people who come to the counter will be like, okay, now I'm going to go away and I'm going to learn how to get Bitcoin so that I can get 50% off. And so I can't perpetuate that infinitum, but I just thought if I could do that for a month, then I could tie it to education, and the two things together could really spark something. So then hanging out with DJ down at Bitcoin Alive, and mentioned it to him, and he's like, oh, well, maybe Hubblock could offer some education, which was probably the biggest pain point for me, because like coming up with all that education is going to be hard. So it was a natural fit to join up with you guys and do something. So yeah,
that's awesome. Can I ask? I'm surprised because I think about this quite a lot, which is I don't have a business, but if I did, I would love to explore the idea of accepting Bitcoin, and how would you use the business as a vehicle to spread Bitcoin to people in the local community. And I always thought, yes, the way is to offer a discount. I'm surprised that the 10%, the 15% didn't move the needle that much. Did that surprise you as well?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I suppose it must be because of the, you're buying a coffee, it's a relatively small purchase. 10%, 15% off an already small purchase doesn't really tweak people's brains a bit. But suddenly you go to 50%, and it suddenly does.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping so. I mean, already, like I've just kind of pre-released this. We're starting tomorrow. We're recording this on the 31st of July, so we're starting tomorrow at the cafe for all of August. And I've already just kind of like been leaking it to some of our regulars, and that it's definitely straight away there. You can see, okay, I've got to go away and learn about this, So, yeah.
Nice one.
I can see we created a bunch of material and collateral for you to utilize, and obviously the education stuff. So we made some custom easy Bitcoin books where we've got the Rise Mofo logo on the front cover, which you'll hand out, I guess, to interested people. There's posters around the store as well, kind of articulating the value prop. So for instance, there's one, in 2020, a coffee costs $4 or 27,600 Sats. We've got BTC just for the BIP 177 fans out there. And then in 2025, a coffee now costs you $6.50 in Australian dollars, or just 4,900 Bitcoin. So that's a pretty dramatic drop. I think it's like over 86% or something to that effect. I've actually been vibe coding a page, which I'm going to send you later, Jesse, which shows the price of the coffees or the menu items that you've got in Australian dollars and then in Bitcoin, and then with the 50% off. So, I mean, you could effectively get you've got, and I've got to ask you, like, what are you running 12, 8, and 6 ounces? That's confusing to me. I just need small, medium, or large. That's, I'm just a Luddite. But you can get a large coffee for 1,776 sats or $3.25. That's pretty damn compelling.
Yeah. Oh, well, I hope so. And even just and then seeing how much Bitcoin has created deflation in the price of coffee as well. I mean, it's pretty public knowledge now. Most mainstream media are banging on about how expensive coffee is. Like recently, we got a 20% rise in the wholesale cost of our coffee, which is, I've been in coffee for 11 years now, and that's the biggest jump I've seen in one step ever in that
What's
time.
driving that? Do you know? Driving that increase?
Look, I know what's driving it. The argument for most people who are a bit more vague around the global economy is it's like supply and demand, weather conditions. They're trying to, blame it on weather.
Oh, climate change.
Climate change, yes. So, but realistically, when you water down the money supply, commodities like coffee have to go up in price. Think, oil and all that kind of stuff. They're a limited supply. They're like a hard. It still takes the same amount of effort to get that coffee grown and out of the ground. So, like, if the purchasing power of that dollar has dropped, then the cost of that commodity is going to have to go up. Yeah. And so, as a cafe owner, understanding about macroeconomics and some of the geopolitics involved, and then also, Bitcoin's really taught me a lot about economics in particular, and understanding inflation. I know I can see that coffee's just going to keep going up and keep going up. It's not going to stop. So, yeah. And how that look, it's interesting. I talked to DJ about this a little bit. As a coffee owner, as a cafe owner, it's getting harder and harder to make a profit. And I think we have a huge, we've got really good inflow of customers. So that's not a big problem. And I think we probably couldn't really squeeze too much more out of our customer flow into our shop on a daily basis, much more than we do. So that side of it is good. The way that we run our operations are quite lean compared to a lot of cafes. So that we couldn't squeeze much more out of it that way. But I'm watching our profit margin plummet. and then the only thing for me to do, there's 3 options for me in an inflationary environment like that. And that's for me to sacrifice my profit margin and basically run a charity or run at a loss, which is not very sustainable. It's to compromise on the products that we use. And part of our values is to actually provide really good quality products. So I think that's part of the reason why we can get this amount of customers coming through our cafe. And then, the last thing is to put our prices up. And so to keep the profit margin going. And so that's hard. I think about people's mortgages are going up, the shops, going to the supermarket, the cost of all their goods and services going up, insurances, electricity, and now the cost of their coffee or their daily, whatever, at the cafe is going up. So how long-term sustainable is that? And what I really see happening is, I see the money supply being squeezed out of the average person and going back to the centralized authorities, essentially, without pointing too many fingers. It's scary.
We seem to be, we're definitely living through, the early doors of managed decline in this country.
Yeah.
You see it in the economic conditions, and people are going to start. I think that business owners like you are in a tough spot where you are going to be forced to raise prices. Like that is going to be the bottom line for many small business owners, many business owners in general, to just start raising prices. And Australians are either going to have to make the decision of, okay, well, what am I compromising on? If I want to keep having my coffee every day, maybe I can't afford a holiday anymore. And people are just going to have to start making these compromises, and it's just going to result in less economic activity in the country. It's just going to be this slow wind down of things, and it's a result of the broken money and the poor economic policies set by our successive governments. Not pointing the finger at one or the other of the parties. I think they're both complicit in this, and you're in the hot seat for dealing with the rough end of that deal as a small business owner. So I definitely feel it.
It's interesting. Like, I would say, like, I can see what the Australian government has to do, and I would blame it further up the pipe than them. And so, the incentives matter. We talk about this all the time as Bitcoiners. Follow the incentives, and you can see. And so, like, at some point, Australian dollar is victim to the world, global economy. So, if the way that I think about it is like this: if someone is injecting steroids in a competitive race, the incentive, and they can get away with it and win the race, then the incentive is for everyone else to do it so that they can keep up. Otherwise,
Shout out Lance.
Yeah. So, like, I see that's where it's going. And, like, I don't know if the Australian government can see it going that way, or whether the Australian people can see it going that way. But that's, once you start to understand what money printing does, then it's like a drug that helps you cheat.
Just going to say, just for anyone that missed the metaphor there, he's referring to, obviously, governments have the ability to print money, and it all stems from the US
Well, they're
government.
Junkies, basically.
Yeah, junkies.
They're junkies, and they need a fix.
That's it.
And the fix just is a patch, and it never lasts as long, and it's never as effective as that first hit anyway. Let's be honest. But I guess one of the cool things about this initiative, I've got this month-long campaign. You're offering 50% off all menu items, which is really cool. Not just coffees, but everything in the store. And you're open, 6 till 12. We're going to have, there's a bunch of collateral, as I said, and we're going to help you out with education. We've got an effective landing page for a lot of your customers. So this is all to try and help bridge the gap between what goes on online between a lot of Bitcoiners, really. Like, we all kind of get it, and we all kind of shout at each other on our various chat, apps, or Twitter or Nostra or wherever it is. But a lot of the pre-coiners out there, they just walk by. They're not even in that ecosystem at all. And I dare say that even before this collateral, you sort of mention, or maybe you've got a sign out the front, I think I've seen it, Bitcoin accepted here or preferred or whatever it is, that maybe sparks a conversation, but probably not as effective. And it's just about really, like, being as explicit as possible to say, this is the cost of your coffee 5 years ago, and this is the cost of your coffee now, and this is the cost of your coffee in dollars, this is your cost of coffee in Bitcoin. Now figure it out, like, seriously. And here's some resources. Here's a website, learn.hardblock.com.au, all of these sorts of things. We're going to have a day we've organized on the 23rd of August, where a bunch of Bitcoiners are going to descend on Rise Mofo from about 7 a.m. I think is about as early as I can give you, Jesse.
Yeah.
And we're going to try and do a hand sell effectively to try and shill the benefits of Bitcoin, and to, again, just bridge that gap between a complete misunderstanding really online. If your first touch point, and most people's first touch point is online or maybe on the news or something like that, but if you've got someone who's your friendly neighborhood coffee barista who serves up quality stuff day in, day out, no days off, as you say, and you then they start talking about Bitcoin, well, that message is going to resonate a heck of a lot better coming from you than coming from pretty much anyone else, really.
Yeah. And look, I think it's a combination of factors. Like we build credibility and community and trust in the community. And so, like I said, like 3 years or so of banging on about Bitcoin, and now I'm really starting to see some people ask me about it offline, you know, not so much to use, but like, oh, what, like, I think I grok this thing. Like, I conceptually understand that, you know, there's a lot of control and propaganda about how things work, but this thing doesn't require that. Like, I can, yeah, I sense that. I've had a few people say, like, I get that this means that it's out of the reach of debasement, essentially, or inflation.
It's good that you're raising that as well on terms of we didn't mention in the news headlines, but some listeners may be aware of the havoc being caused by payment processors now online, where like Visa and MasterCard are cutting off or threatening to cut off payment processing for a lot of massive content distribution networks like Steam. If you ever use them for games and stuff, they're basically threatening to pull the plug on payment processing. And, you know, I think the more that stuff like that happens, the more people realize, oh, we need alternatives that are out of that control. And Bitcoin happens to be the best alternative. So yeah, that's going to start to resonate with people. And then they're going to start to connect the dots when they then walk past your cafe. Bitcoin accepted here, you get a little bit of a discount, whatever. And it's just going to be this rising tide as more and more issues get thrown around.
Yeah, like I said, like Bitcoin. I think about Bitcoin often like the adoption of the internet, and so, you know, in the late 90s, I was plugging in a modem, and it was like, you know, and it was 5 minutes before you're online, and then most websites were text only, and if it had a picture, it would be like. And it's kind of like seed phrases, or I don't know, like, but it's kind of like cold wallets, and, you know, so I feel like
Too early.
We're still early. Layers are going to be built on top. I don't anticipate, and this whole thing that we're doing with you guys isn't about getting people to pay in Bitcoin tomorrow. It's really about getting people to start thinking about Bitcoin, and they might be negative 20 on their journey. If 0 is the starting point, they might be negative 20, and we can help get them to negative 10. You know what I mean? Like, I'd hope that we get them plus 5.
We'll get
or
them
plus
to 0
10.
at least.
Yeah. Well, you guys go 0 to hero with your email campaign. So,
Nice.
if we at Rise Mofo can get them to 0, there we go. But yeah, that's the main mindset behind it.
Can I ask, we mentioned before, like the difficult economic conditions, constantly having to absorb those prices or indeed raise them and squeeze the customer. Do you think that, just from a purely business standpoint, if you got more of your customers to prefer or spend their Bitcoin with you, that's a tactic, a strategy that you could use going forward to actually maintain sustainability in business?
100%. Like, if we can, I am aware, you know, I've done enough reading and research now to understand where Bitcoin's most likely going. And so if we can retain, you know, if we can get payments in Bitcoin and it continues to keep moving up, rather than dealing with a dollar that keeps dwindling in purchasing power, we're dealing with a currency that appreciates in purchasing power. And so that means it will keep us sustainable longer. And so, yeah, 100%. Like, I don't anticipate that to change. Like
it just kind of mitigates one particular threat vector that's not in your control. Like, if you were going out of business because your coffee sucked, fair enough. But if you have to go out of business because the money's sucks, like, that's pretty bad, man.
Yeah. And I mean, like, we do all that we can to make sure every area of our processes are really tight, and still, because the money sucks, I can feel the squeeze happening, you know? So
You can always pivot into becoming a Bitcoin treasury company.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
It's a hot trend at the moment.
It is. I see. Yeah.
Jesse, can I ask just for your general comments for anyone out there that's listening that has a small business or knows a small business that the owner might be receptive to the idea of accepting Bitcoin? Can you offer any, like, your two stats on what that journey is like in practicality? You know, how you've actually gone about actually accepting Bitcoin. How do you manage your accounting? Any tidbits you can offer there?
Look, it's not easy. So you have to be prepared to make a sacrifice, and I think that's the passion and the purpose behind Bitcoin. Once you see behind the curtain, once you see what Bitcoin is capable of, I mean, I have had my eyes opened. I honestly think Bitcoin's going to change the world. Like, it's going to shift us from a violence-based protection of property rights to a peaceful opt-in based economy of property rights. And I can see how that is going to be generative for society at large the more and more it unfolds. And so that drives my desire to help get people understanding Bitcoin. And so, like, yeah, there's a sacrifice. It's not easy. I mean, I've got a staff member, my manager now, he's like, can I get some of my wage paid in Bitcoin? Like, I want to. And so,
Nice.
like, I'm like, this is awesome. Also, this is a pain in the ass, but I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, yeah, we're, like I said, we're so early in the process, but I'm willing to go through the pain points because I can see what this is going to do for society. I think really first and foremost, I want my community to start grokking the store of value proposition that Bitcoin has, and then that will turn into medium of exchange we know down the road. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very clever initiative, I think. Even as you just said, you know, you encourage people obviously to spend Bitcoin at Rise Mofo, but notionally it's about education and getting them to at least see, oh, okay, this thing actually, it's more than number go up. It's actually a force for good within the community, and so your scale is correct. And I think this is an awesome portal for a lot of people to be, for lack of a better word, onboarded to Bitcoin in a real meaningful way too. Like, you know, their local coffee shop is actually going above and beyond, because you don't have to do this.
No,
you know, this is actually like an extra bit of work, but obviously, just like many Bitcoiners, you believe in just how valuable and incredible this thing is in terms of what it will do just generally for the world, and without turning into a kumbaya. You know, we're not too idealistic here, but this is one of the reasons why we do what we do at Hardblock. And obviously this is a really cool collaboration which we could you know, spread elsewhere and elsewise. And gosh, all I was going to say is, yeah, it kicks off tomorrow, right? On August 1st, Friday, August 1st, and runs through the whole month.
Yeah. And we're just like myself and my business partner. So I own the cafe. My wife and I own it with another husband and wife, and we're both very on board the Bitcoin train. And so they understand it. I mean, I'm way for, like, I drive everyone crazy with how much I am into it. So, but they're definitely on board. So it's not like they're like, I'm dragging them kicking and screaming into this. They're definitely on board. My manager is, he's the other person that I would trust to a degree with some of it. Some of the youngest junior staff, like some of the young kids, are like, tell me more about this Bitcoin stuff. Like, how do I get it? Like, what? And it's everyone in between. Everyone in between's like, what's this crazy cult? Like, what's this? You know. So, like, that's part of actually the perception that I want to break as well. So, I think mainstream media really does Bitcoin a massive disservice for whatever reason. But
you're in the perfect spot to deal with that old world mentality that gets pumped into people through media, because you're showing it practically working. You're showing that you can have your Bitcoin wallet and you can buy coffee, you can exchange it for goods and services right here. And that dispels the notion that it's just this wishy-washy cultish thing. It's like, no, this actually works. You can set up a wallet, you can receive Bitcoin, you can then send it to this merchant, you can receive a coffee, and you haven't had to go through a rigmarole with a bank or get the government to sign off or whatever. It just works. And you've shown it in your store, which is awesome.
And the other thing that I hope too is that they end up with a bit of Bitcoin on a wallet, you know, it'll roll around in the back of their mind and stuff like that. And then in a year's time, they look at it and they're like, well, that $10 is like $100 now. Whoa. Well, and I've had people do that. Like I literally have had a couple of years ago, gave people $10 worth of Bitcoin, and a guy said to me, that Bitcoin you gave me is worth $120 now. Like, and that's really and I realize that's a low time preference or a long time frame. Like I'm seeing it now so just on board for that journey, one bit at a time.
So in addition to obviously the 50% off, which is a huge incentive to get into the store, if someone is interested in going down to Rise Mofo, you're going to have collateral, flyers, there's some QR codes to some web pages and landing pages that we've made. And on the 23rd, when some of the Hard Block crew rock up to spread the good word, so to speak, we're going to have some T-shirts in tow. So, you know, if you're a highly motivated Bitcoiner, come and get a free shirt. And for the month, we've actually got a special code too we're going to roll out very soon, where you'll get $10 worth of free Bitcoin when you sign up to Hardblock and buy your first verified purchase, which is awesome because you can then effectively withdraw that on Lightning immediately and buy your coffee with it as well. So it's an awesome initiative. I think genius idea, Jesse, and we're very, very proud and pleased to be a part of it. So thank you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you guys for getting on board. Like I appreciate having this vision and then having some valuable Bitcoiners validate that vision is incredible. So thank you guys.
And I dare say that it's mostly Bitcoiners that listen to this podcast. So, you know, if you are in the area on the Central Coast, Tukely, then come and see Rise Mofo and get half price on everything and you know, spread the good word.
I'll just say half price at our cafe. We do burger nights. So we make these really awesome burgers on Thursday and Friday nights. So fried chicken. There are seed oils in the fried chicken, but we're working on that. That's something I've just bubbling away in my background that I want to change. We do awesome beef burgers and stuff like that at that. And then next door we've got a deli which we do like banging sandwiches, and then all sorts of products like lasagnas and chicken pies and all the kind of bits and pieces you get for you. So that at all those three places, you can get 50% off for the month of August. So
amazing.
You know,
Well, I think that might wrap it up for the fortnight, boys. We didn't get to too much news, but I think we focused on the main thing and kept the main thing, which is shilling Rise Mofo and shilling its Hardblock collaboration.
and shilling Bitcoin.
Yeah, and shilling Bitcoin, which is the thing that we're all here for. You know, I'm not one to sort of get too much into the doom stuff, and it's coming from my background where I used to work in media. I've gone from basically 100 to almost 0, and I find that my brain thanks me for that. So probably not the greatest host to have on a pod like this, but hey. Mike's the man holding up it all, you know, like Atlas. We appreciate it. Let's wrap it. I appreciate you coming on, Jesse and Mike. It's good to have you back, mate. We'll catch you guys around the traps. We'll see you back on the next episode soon, Mike.
No worries. Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Get to Rise Mofo. Buy Bitcoin from Hardblock. See ya.